Fleet Commander Vex Prime adjusted his bioluminescent scales, the purple glow dimming as he stared at the tactical display. 3,000 ships. 3,000. The largest armada in Korthak's history, stretching across 17 solar units of space. And their target, one pathetic blue marble orbiting a mediocre yellow star. "Sir," chirped his aide, a nervous little Grickton named Pip9. "The advanced scouts are reporting some unusual readings from the third planet." Vex Prime's mandibles clicked in what humans might mistake for laughter.
Unusual? Pip,
"We are about to glass an entire civilization. Everything about today is unusual." The bridge of the flagship's stellar maw hummed with activity. Officers from 12 different species worked at their stations, all united under the Korthak's Empire's iron fist. Well, technically a chitinous claw, but the metaphor held. Each species brought their own expertise. The Grichtons with their computational abilities, the Thalorians with their tactical genius, the Zephyrites with their sensor technology. It was the perfect war machine, and Earth was about to feel its full weight. "Commander," called out sensor operator Thiska, her serpentine form coiled around her workstation, "I'm detecting approximately 8 billion lifeforms on the target planet. Primitive technology, chemical propulsion, basic electromagnetic communications. 8 billion. Vex Prime's secondary eyes widened. "That's excessive. No wonder they are destroying their own planet. The pollution readings are off the charts." Navigation Officer Quinn Rex, a bulky Thalorian with 4 arms, looked up from his station. "Sir, their largest vessels appear to be sea-bound craft made of refined metals. No fusion drives, no plasma shields, no gravitational manipulation whatsoever." Vex Prime felt a familiar tingle of disappointment. Another primitive world, another quick conquest. Where was the challenge? The glory? The tactical brilliance required to overcome a worthy adversary? "Very well," he sighed, his gills fluttering with resignation. "Signal the fleet. Standard planetary siege formation. We will offer them the usual surrender terms. They will refuse because primitives always think they are special, and then we will demonstrate why resistance is futile." Communications Officer Zarate, her crystalline body refracting the bridge's blue lighting into rainbow patterns, began transmitting. "All ships, assume siege positions. Maintain orbital distance of 10,000 kilometers. Weapons charged, shields at maximum." Through the massive viewports, Vex Prime watched his armada spread across Earth's sky like a metallic plague. Dreadnoughts, the size of small moons, cruisers bristling with plasma cannons, fighters swarming like angry insects. It was beautiful in a terrifying sort of way. "Transmission ready, Commander," announced Zara 8, broadcasting on all electromagnetic frequencies. "Put it through," Vex Prime commanded, straightening his ceremonial war harness. His voice boomed across Earth's communication networks, translated into every human language by the ship's AI. "People of Earth, I am Fleet Commander Vex Prime of the Korthak's Empire. Your world now belongs to us. You have one rotation of your planet to surrender unconditionally. Refuse, and we will reduce your cities to ash and your oceans to steam. This is your only warning." The transmission ended. Now came the waiting. Vex Prime had done this dance 47 times before. The pattern never changed. Shock, denial, desperate attempts at communication, pathetic shows of resistance, and finally, acceptance. Usually took about 6 hours for the primitive governments to crumble. "Sir," Pip9 squeaked, "we are receiving multiple transmissions from the planet's surface. Already. They are quicker than most. Put the primary government response through." The main screen flickered, revealing a pale-skinned human female in what appeared to be an ornate chamber. She wore strange fabric coverings, and had an expression that Vex Prime's translation matrix labeled as diplomatic concern. "I am President Maria Santos of the United Earth Coalition," the human said, her voice steady despite the circumstances. "Commander Vex Prime, we request an immediate ceasefire to discuss terms of negotiation." Vex Prime's laugh rumbled through the bridge. "Negotiation? Oh, that's rich. Tell me, President Santos, what exactly do you think you have to negotiate with?" The human's eyes narrowed slightly. "Commander, we may not have your advanced technology, but we are not defenseless. Perhaps we could arrange a more mutually beneficial arrangement." "Mutually beneficial." Vex Prime turned to his officers. his amusement growing. Did you hear that? They think they can benefit us? What are you going to offer President Santos? Fruits? Primitive art? Your best scientists couldn't build a basic fusion reactor if we gave them the blueprints. The human's diplomatic mask slipped for just a moment, revealing something that made Vex Prime's scales prickle.
Was that?
Commander, President Santos said slowly, I think you may be underestimating us. Before Vex Prime could respond, alarms began screaming across the bridge. The Ka's serpentine form went rigid at her sensor station. Commander, she hissed, I'm detecting massive energy signatures across the planet's surface, over 2,000 distinct sources. What kind of energy signatures? Vex Prime demanded, his amusement evaporating. Unknown configuration. The readings they are off the scale. Sir, these aren't conventional weapons. Quinrex's four arms danced across his navigation controls. Commander, I'm reading structural changes in the planet's magnetic field. Something is building up massive electromagnetic potential. Vex Prime felt the first cold touch of unease. In 47 conquests, he'd never encountered unexpected energy readings. Zara 8. Are we still connected to the human president? Yes, sir. She's still on the channel. President Santos. Vex Prime said, his voice losing its casual arrogance. What exactly are those energy readings? The human smiled. Actually smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. Oh, those, she said casually. Those are our defensive installations. You see, Commander, we have had this conversation before. Before? What are you talking about? 300 years ago the Verendi Empire tried to conquer us. 200 years ago it was the Celestial Hegemony. 150 years ago the Phantom Consortium. 50 years ago the Stellar Dominion. And just 20 years ago the Void Collective. Vex Prime's blood turned to ice water. Those were all major galactic powers. The Verendi Empire had controlled 40 star systems before they disappeared. The Celestial Hegemony had been the dominant force in the Outer Rim until they vanished without a trace. That's impossible, he whispered. Those civilizations were destroyed by internal conflicts, natural disasters, cosmic anomalies. President Santos leaned forward, her smile widening. Commander, let me ask you something. In all your intelligence gathering about Earth, did anyone think to check the orbital debris fields around our planet? Orbital debris? Of course there's debris. Primitive spacefaring civilizations always leave junk in orbit. Pip9, the human president, called out, somehow knowing his aide's name. Run a detailed scan of the debris field. Focus on the larger fragments and cross-reference the metal compositions with your database of known alien technologies. Pip9's claws clicked frantically across his control surface. His large eyes grew even larger as the results appeared. Commander, sir, these aren't random debris pieces. They are organized, arranged in patterns, and the metal compositions by the 7 moons. These are fragments from Verendi dreadnoughts, Celestial Hegemony battle cruisers, Phantom Consortium stealth ships. 50,000 years of galactic expansion, President Santos continued conversationally, and no one ever bothered to ask why this little blue planet never got conquered. You all just assumed we were too primitive to notice. The tactical display updated showing the massive energy signatures Theskar had detected. They weren't random. They formed a perfect geometric pattern across Earth's surface, each point precisely calculated for maximum orbital coverage. You see, Commander, the human said, the first time someone tried to invade us, we barely survived. Took us decades to reverse engineer their technology. The second time we were ready, but it was still a close fight. By the third time, well, we'd gotten rather good at this. Vex Prime's mandibles clicked nervously. Those energy signatures, what are they? Planetary defense grid. Each installation contains technology from every species that's ever tried to conquer us. Verendi plasma cannons enhanced with celestial hegemony focusing crystals, Phantom Consortium, stealth shields powered by Stellar Dominion fusion cores. And the power source, she paused dramatically. Void Collective dark matter reactors. The bridge fell silent except for the increasingly frantic beeping of alarms. Commander, Theskai hissed, the energy readings are spiking. Whatever those installations are, they are charging up. But this is impossible. Vex Prime stammered, You are primitives. You use chemical rockets. You burn fossil fuels. President Santos laughed. Oh, we still do all that. We have found it's an excellent way to maintain the illusion. You know what the really funny part is? Every single invasion fleet that's ever come here said exactly the same thing. You are just primitives. You can't possibly resist us. Your technology is laughably inferior. She leaned back in her chair, her expression turning cold. Do you know what happened to Fleet Commander Zex Prime of the Void Collective? Vex Prime's scales turned pale. Zex Prime? But you can't know about. He had the same name as you, interestingly enough. Well, similar anyway. He commanded a fleet of 800 ships. Very impressive, he thought, right up until our defense grid fired. The energy readings spiked again. Through the viewports, Vex Prime could see pinpricks of light beginning to glow on Earth's day side. Hundreds of them. No, thousands. President Santos, he said, his voice cracking slightly. Surely we can reach some accommodation. The Korthax Empire is reasonable. We could negotiate mining rights, establish trade agreements. Oh, Commander, she said sweetly. The time for negotiation was before you threatened to turn our cities to ash and our oceans to steam. Quenrex looked up from his station, his forearms shaking. Commander, I'm detecting gravitational anomalies throughout the fleet. The smaller ships are reporting navigation difficulties. Gravitational anomalies? Vex Prime spun toward his navigation officer. What kind of anomalies? Artificial gravity wells, sir. They are forming around each of our ships. We are being locked in position. President Santos nodded approvingly. Phantom consortium gravity manipulation technology. Quite useful for keeping invasion fleets from running away before we are finished with them. The pinpricks of light on Earth's surface were growing brighter, and there were more of them. Many. How many? Vex Prime whispered. How many defense installations do you have? Currently active? About 12,000. We have been building new ones every time we capture alien technology, which, as you can imagine, has been quite frequently over the past few centuries. The Psychobis serpentine form was trembling now. Commander, the energy signatures are reaching critical levels. Whatever they are planning to do, it's going to happen soon. Vex Prime turned back to the screen, his purple bioluminescence flickering erratically. Wait! Wait! We surrender, we will leave immediately. Just let us go. President Santos tilted her head thoughtfully. You know, Commander, that's exactly what Zex Prime said, right before he tried to ram his flagship into our capital city. I would never, we are not. Of course not. But here's the thing about trust, Commander. It has to be earned. And frankly, your opening statement about reducing our cities to ash doesn't inspire much confidence. The lights on Earth's surface reached blinding intensity. Even through the viewport's protective filters, they were painful to look at. Commander, Communications Officer Zara 8 called out, her crystalline form refracting the light into frantic rainbow patterns. I'm receiving emergency broadcasts from throughout the fleet. Ships are reporting complete system lockdowns, weapons offline, shields failing, engines dead. Void Collective quantum disruption technology, President Santos explained helpfully, remarkably effective at disabling alien electronics. We have had 20 years to perfect it since their last visit. Vex Prime felt his legs give out. He collapsed into his command chair, staring at the tactical display in horror. 3,000 ships, the largest armada in Korthax history, and they were all sitting ducks. Please, he whispered, we will leave. We will never come back. We will tell everyone Earth is protected, forbidden territory. Just don't. President Santos stood up from her chair, her expression softening slightly. Commander Vex Prime, I want you to understand something. We don't enjoy this. Killing isn't something humans take pleasure in. But we have learned through painful experience that sometimes mercy is interpreted as weakness. The Earth installations fired. The viewports automatically darkened as thousands of energy beams lanced upward from the planet's surface. They weren't random shots. Each beam was precisely targeted, calculated to maximum effect. The Korthax fleet, locked in position by gravity manipulators and crippled by quantum disruptors, could only watch as their doom approached. The beams struck with impossible precision, not aimed at the ship's hulls, but at their power cores. The result was spectacular. One by one, across the vast expanse of space, Gorthak's vessels exploded in brilliant spheres of contained fusion fire. Vex Prime watched in numb horror as his magnificent armada was systematically dismantled. Dreadnoughts that had conquered worlds vanished in nuclear fire. Cruisers that had bombarded entire civilizations into submission became expanding clouds of superheated gas. Fighters that had strafed alien cities winked out of existence like snuffed candles. The targeting computers, he mumbled. How did they? Each shot was perfect. Precise. Like they knew exactly where to hit. Verendi targeting systems, President Santos said matter-of-factly, enhanced with celestial hegemony predictive algorithms and stellar dominion ballistic calculation matrices. 300 years of continuous improvement tends to produce excellent results. Ship after ship died. 1,000 vessels, 2,000. The explosions were beautiful in a horrific way, like deadly flowers blooming in the darkness of space. My fleet, Vex Prime whispered. My beautiful, magnificent fleet. Your fleet, President Santos corrected gently, was threatening 8 billion innocent people. That tends to upset us. Through it all, the flagship Stellar Maw remained untouched. The Earth weapons had carefully avoided the command vessel, leaving it floating alone among the debris of what had once been the greatest armada in Gorthak's history. Why? Vex Prime asked, tears streaming down his scaled cheeks. Why spare us? President Santos resumed her seat, her diplomatic expression returning. Because, Commander, someone needs to go back and tell your empire what happened here. Someone needs to spread the word that Earth is not, and never has been, defenseless. The Earth installations powered down, their deadly light fading. The artificial gravity wells dissipated, freeing the Stellar Maw from its invisible bonds. Ship systems flickered back to life as the quantum disruptors ceased their interference. Your engines are functional, President Santos announced. Your navigation systems are operational. Your communications array is undamaged. You have sufficient supplies to reach the nearest Gorthak's outpost. Vex Prime looked around his bridge. Pip-9 was cowering under his station. The Thuxkat had coiled herself into a defensive ball. Quinrex sat motionless, staring at his screens with blank, unbelieving eyes. Zara, 8's crystalline form had turned completely transparent with shock. How many, he asked, quietly. How many what, Commander? How many ships did you leave alive? President Santos consulted a tablet. From your 3,000-vessel armada? 17 ships total, all of them small scouts or communication vessels, just enough to get the survivors home and tell the story. 17. Out of 3,000. We could have killed you all, she continued. Please make sure your emperor understands that we chose not to because we believe in giving people the chance to learn from their mistakes. Vex Prime nodded numbly. Around the bridge, his surviving officers slowly began returning to their stations. The work of plotting a course home would begin soon, a course that would take them back to the Gorthak's empire with the most devastating military defeat in galactic history. Commander, President Santos said, one last thing. Vex Prime looked up at the screen. The next time someone in your empire suggests invading Earth, show them the recordings of today. All of them, every single explosion. And then explain to them that in the 300 years we have been doing this, our weapons have only gotten better. The transmission ended. The main screen went dark, leaving Vex Prime alone with the aftermath of his arrogance. Sir? Pip-9 squeaked from under his station. What? What are your orders? Vex Prime stared out at the debris field that had once been his fleet. Twisted metal, glowing plasma, and the expanding gases of 3,000 funeral pyres. In the distance, Earth continued its peaceful rotation, blue and serene and utterly, completely deadly. Set course for home, he whispered. Maximum speed. And Pip-9? Yes, sir. Send a priority message to Imperial Command. Tell them Earth is off limits. Permanently. As the Stellar Maw turned away from the small blue planet, Vex Prime couldn't shake the feeling that he'd just witnessed something unprecedented in galactic history. Not just a military defeat, but a fundamental misunderstanding of what humanity truly was. They weren't primitive. They never had been. They were predators, patient, calculating, and absolutely merciless when threatened. And they'd been waiting. The journey back to Gorthak's Prime took 18 cycles. 18 long, agonizing cycles of staring at empty bunks, silent communication arrays, and a haunting void where 3,000 ships should have been traveling alongside the stellar maw. Vex Prime had aged decades. In those weeks, his once proud purple scales had dulled to a sickly gray, and his bioluminescent patterns flickered weakly. The other survivors weren't faring much better. Veskai spent most of her time coiled in a corner, muttering calculations about impossible targeting solutions. Gwenrex obsessively reviewed sensor logs, trying to understand how primitive chemical rockets had hidden such devastating technology. "Sir," Pip9 whispered, approaching Vex Prime's command chair with obvious reluctance. "We are receiving a transmission from Korthax Prime. Emperor Vax Ultimate wants a full briefing upon our arrival." Vex Prime's mandibles clicked bitterly. "A briefing? Of course he does. How exactly does one brief an emperor about the complete annihilation of his greatest armada by a species that hasn't even achieved basic fusion technology? Perhaps," Pip9 suggested hopefully, "we could focus on the strategic implications, the advanced alien technology they somehow acquired." "Advanced alien technology?" Vex Prime laughed, a sound devoid of any humor. "Orp, they didn't acquire it. They earned it. Every single weapon system, every targeting computer, every shield generator. They earned it by killing the previous owners." The stellar maw dropped out of hyperspace near Korthax Prime, the Empire's capital world. It was a magnificent sight, 3 massive space stations orbiting a planet covered in gleaming cities, with hundreds of ships moving in perfectly choreographed patterns, the heart of galactic civilization, or so they'd always believed. Now it just looked fragile. "Incoming transmission," announced Communications Officer Zara 8, her crystalline form still pale from the trauma. "Imperial Command is requesting immediate docking at Station Alpha. Priority Bay 7. Within hours, Vex Prime found himself standing before the Korthax Empire's most powerful beings. Emperor Vex Ultimate dominated the center of the room, his massive form draped in ceremonial bio-armor that pulsed with neural interfaces. Around him stood the High Council, 12 species, 12 different evolutionary paths, all united under Korthax rule. "Fleet Commander Vex Prime," the Emperor's voice rumbled through the chamber's acoustic enhancers, "explain to us how the largest armada in our history was defeated by a primitive world." Vex Prime straightened his shoulders, knowing this would likely be his final official act. "Your Majesty, Earth is not primitive. We were wrong. We were all wrong." High Counselor Max 7, a floating gas being contained within a mechanical shell, drifted forward. "Commander, our intelligence reports indicate this species uses chemical combustion for transportation. They burn fossil fuels for energy. They have not even achieved controlled fusion reactions. They have achieved much more than fusion," Vex Prime replied quietly. "They have achieved patience." The room fell silent. Emperor Vrax Ultimate leaned forward, his massive head tilting with interest. "Explain." Vex Prime activated his personal datapad, projecting holographic recordings from the battle. The Council watched in growing horror as the Earth defense grid systematically destroyed ship after ship with impossible precision. "For 300 years, Vex Prime began, this species has been invaded by major galactic powers: the Virendi Empire, the Celestial Hegemony, the Phantom Consortium, the Stellar Dominion, and most recently, the Void Collective. Every single invasion failed." High Counselor Thaka Prime, a insectoid creature with compound eyes, clicked nervously. "Failed how?" "Those were mighty civilizations. The Virendi Empire alone controlled 40 star systems." "Controlled, past tense," Vex Prime emphasized. "Where are they now, Counselor? Where is the Virendi Empire? Where is the Celestial Hegemony?" "They are floating in orbit around Earth as debris powering human weapon systems." The holographic display showed the moment when Earth's installations fired. Thousands of energy beams, each one finding its target with surgical precision. The Council members recoiled as they watched the systematic destruction of the Korthax fleet. "This is impossible," breathed High Counselor Yes9, her ethereal form shimmering with distress. "No single world could develop such advanced technology." "They didn't develop it," Vex Prime said grimly. "They inherited it. Every time a galactic power tried to conquer them, the humans studied the wreckage. They reverse-engineered the technology, improved it, integrated it with their own systems. 3 centuries of constant technological advancement, funded by the aggression of others. Emperor Vex Ultimate was silent for a long moment, processing the implications. You are telling us that this species has been deliberately appearing primitive while secretly becoming the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. Not the most advanced, Your Majesty, the most experienced. There's a difference. Vex Prime highlighted sections of the tactical display. Look at their targeting solutions. Perfect computational prediction of our ship movements. Look at their power distribution. Flawless energy management across 12,000 installations. Look at their coordination. Not a single wasted shot. Not one missed target. Counselor X4, a cybernetic entity with multiple processing cores, analyzed the data streams. Commander, these coordination algorithms, they are not possible. The computational requirements alone would demand resources equivalent to a dozen star systems. Unless, Vex Prime said quietly, you have been perfecting them for 300 years. Unless you have had practice. Lots of practice. The room erupted in alarmed chatter as the council members began discussing the implications. Vex Prime waited patiently until Emperor Vex Ultimate raised a massive claw for silence. Commander, the Emperor said slowly, what are you recommending? Complete quarantine of the Sol system. Your Majesty, no ships, no probes, no communication attempts. We classify Earth as a galactic hazard and warn all member species to maintain absolute distance. High Counselor Max 7's mechanical shell rotated in agitation. You are suggesting we abandon expansion into that entire sector because of one planet. I'm suggesting we avoid extinction. Vex Prime replied bluntly. Your Majesty, I lost 3,000 ships to these humans. 3,000 of our finest vessels destroyed in less than an hour. And they weren't even trying hard. What do you mean? Emperor Vex Ultimate demanded. Vex Prime manipulated the holographic display, zooming in on Earth's surface during the battle. Look at the planet during our attack. Notice anything unusual? The council studied the images. Slowly, expressions of disbelief appeared on various alien faces. Their cities, whispered High Counselor Thak Prime. They are completely normal. No panic, no evacuation, no emergency protocols. Traffic is moving normally, observed High Counselor Yes-9. Their transportation networks show no disruption. According to these scans, High Counselor X4 added, their communication networks were carrying routine civilian traffic throughout the engagement, entertainment broadcasts, commercial advertisements, educational programs. Vex Prime nodded grimly. They were conducting their normal daily activities while simultaneously destroying the largest armada in Korthak's history. To them, we weren't a significant threat. We were barely an inconvenience. The silence that followed was deafening. Emperor Vex Ultimate slowly rose from his throne, his massive form casting shadows across the chamber. Commander Vex Prime, you will prepare a complete report on this encounter. Every detail, every sensor reading, every communication exchange. This information will be classified at the highest levels and distributed to all member species. Yes, Your Majesty. Furthermore, the Emperor continued, you will work with our xenobiology experts to develop a comprehensive analysis of human psychology. We need to understand how a species develops such capabilities while maintaining the appearance of primitiveness. Over the following months, Vex Prime found himself at the center of the greatest intelligence operation in Korthak's history. Teams of specialists analyzed every fragment of data from the Earth encounter, trying to understand what they'd really faced. Dr. Nina Thought, the Empire's leading xenopsychologist, presented her findings to a classified council session. Based on our analysis of human communication patterns during the engagement, we have identified several disturbing characteristics. Define disturbing. Emperor Vex Ultimate commanded. They appear to view interstellar warfare as a form of entertainment, Dr. Nina Thought replied, her tentacles writhing with agitation. Our translation algorithms detected what humans call humor in their communications. They were making jokes while destroying our fleet. High Counselor Max 7's shell rotated nervously. Jokes? President Santos. Their primary leader made several comments that suggest they found our invasion attempt amusing rather than threatening. When Commander Vex Prime mentioned their primitive technology, she actually laughed. Vex Prime winced at the memory. That laugh still haunted his dreams. There's more, Dr. Nina Thought continued. Our behavioral analysis suggests this wasn't their first choice of response. They offered negotiation initially, Only when Commander Vex Prime rejected their diplomatic overtures did they resort to violence. Are you suggesting, High Counselor Thek Prime clicked anxiously, that they could have responded differently? I'm suggesting they chose the level of force appropriate to the threat we presented. If Commander Vex Prime had accepted their negotiation offer, they might have allowed us to leave peacefully. The implications sent chills through the assembled council members. But once we refused, Vex Prime added quietly, they demonstrated exactly why refusal was unwise. Emperor Vax Ultimate absorbed this information, his bioluminescent patterns flickering with deep thought. Dr. Nina thought, in your professional opinion, what would happen if a more significant force were sent against Earth? The xenopsychologist was quiet for a long moment. Your Majesty, based on their demonstrated capabilities and psychological profile, I believe they would respond proportionally. A larger threat would face a larger response. How much larger? We observed 12,000 active defense installations during the engagement. However, our post-battle analysis suggests this represents only a fraction of their total defensive capability. High Counselor X4's processing cores whirred frantically. Doctor, what evidence supports this conclusion? Power grid analysis. The energy signature we detected was distributed across their planetary infrastructure, but the total power consumption during the battle represented less than 3% of their global generating capacity. The silence was profound. 3%, Emperor Vex Ultimate repeated slowly. Yes, Your Majesty, they destroyed our entire armada using 3% of their available power. Vex Prime felt sick. What about the other 97%? Unknown. But given their pattern of continuous technological advancement over 3 centuries, we can only speculate that their full defensive capability is beyond our current understanding. High Counselor Yes9 shimmered with distress. Are we certain they haven't already expanded beyond their home system? How do we know they don't have hidden colonies throughout the galaxy? Dr. Nina Thought consulted her datapad. Actually, that's another interesting psychological characteristic. They appear to be genuinely non-expansionist. Our intelligence networks have found no evidence of human colonies outside the Sol system. But why? Asked High Counselor Thek Prime. With their capabilities, they could conquer half the galaxy. Because, Vex Prime said suddenly, the pieces clicking together in his mind, they don't want to. They are not conquerors. They are defenders. Dr. Nina Thought nodded approvingly. Exactly, Commander. Human psychology appears to be fundamentally defensive rather than aggressive. They don't seek to expand their territory or impose their will on others. They simply want to be left alone. And when they are not left alone, Emperor Vax Ultimate asked, they demonstrate why leaving them alone is the wisest course of action, Dr. Nina Thought replied. The months following these revelations saw unprecedented changes in galactic politics. The Korthax Empire issued the Sol Quarantine Decree, officially declaring Earth and its entire star system off-limits to all Imperial vessels. Similar decrees were quietly adopted by every major galactic power, but the humans weren't content to simply be avoided. 6 months after the battle, a small craft appeared at the edge of Korthax space. It was clearly of human design, sleek and efficient, powered by technology that made their best ships look like chemical rockets, which Vex Prime realized with bitter irony was exactly what they'd thought of human technology in the first place. The ship requested permission to dock at Korthax Prime, transmitting diplomatic credentials for one ambassador, Rebecca Torres. Emperor Verforax Ultimate personally authorized the docking. Curious despite his caution, the human ambassador was escorted to the Imperial Palace under heavy guard, though everyone present understood the guards were more for show than protection. Ambassador Torres was a middle-aged human female with graying hair and calm, intelligent eyes. She carried herself with the quiet confidence of someone who knew exactly how dangerous her species was and felt no need to prove it. Your Majesty, she said, bowing respectfully to Emperor Vax Ultimate, I come bearing an offer of friendship from the people of Earth. The Emperor leaned forward, intrigued despite himself. Ambassador Torres, after what happened to our fleet, you will forgive our caution regarding human offers. Ambassador Torres smiled, the same expression that had terrified Vex Prime months earlier. Your Majesty, Earth regrets the loss of life that occurred during the recent misunderstanding. We would prefer to build positive relationships with our galactic neighbors. Misunderstanding? High Counselor Max Evans' shells spun indignantly. Your people destroyed 3,000 ships. Your people threatened to reduce our cities to ash. Ambassador Torres replied calmly. We responded proportionally. However, we recognized that this incident was based on incomplete information on both sides. Emperor Vrax Ultimate gestured for silence. Ambassador, what are you proposing? A cultural and technological exchange program. We are willing to share certain defensive technologies with species that demonstrate peaceful intentions toward Earth and other inhabited worlds. The council chamber erupted in excited chatter. The possibility of accessing human technology was intoxicating. In exchange, Ambassador Torres continued once the noise died down, we would like your assistance in establishing communication networks with other galactic civilizations. You see, we have discovered that our defensive reputation has made some species reluctant to engage in normal diplomatic relations. High Counselor Thakrim clicked nervously. Ambassador, what kind of defensive technologies are you willing to share? Non-lethal systems primarily, advanced shielding, improved life support, enhanced communication arrays. We have found that well-defended civilizations are less likely to engage in aggressive expansion. Vex Prime, who had been silent throughout the exchange, finally spoke up. Ambassador Torres, may I ask you a personal question? Of course, Commander. Do you actually enjoy this? The fighting, the destruction, the fear you inspire? Ambassador Torres was quiet for a moment, her expression becoming thoughtful. Commander, let me tell you about my grandfather. He lived through the Void Collective invasion 20 years ago. He was 8 years old when their ships appeared in our skies. She paused, looking directly at Vex Prime. For 3 days he hid in a basement shelter while our defensive systems fought off the invasion. 3 days of terror, wondering if he'd live to see his 9th birthday. When it was over, he asked his parents why the aliens wanted to hurt us. What did they tell him? That some people in the universe think strength gives them the right to take whatever they want from those they perceive as weaker. My grandfather spent his life working to ensure no human child would ever have to ask that question again. Ambassador Torres stood, her diplomatic composure intact but her message clear. Commander, we don't enjoy the fighting. We are very, very good at it. But we don't enjoy it. We'd much rather be exploring the universe, creating art, advancing science, raising our children in peace. But 300 years of experience has taught us that peace must sometimes be defended with overwhelming force. Emperor Versailles Ultimate nodded slowly. And the species that have threatened you, do you harbor resentment toward their survivors? We harbor caution, Ambassador Torres replied, but not resentment. The Korthax Empire, for example, has shown no aggressive behavior toward other species in your recent expansion. Your conflict was with us specifically, based on a misunderstanding of our capabilities. We are willing to move past that incident if you are. Over the following weeks, negotiations produced the Sol Accords, the first treaty between Earth and a major galactic power. The agreement established formal diplomatic relations, outlined technology-sharing protocols, and most importantly created a framework for peaceful coexistence. The signing ceremony was held aboard a neutral space station, with representatives from dozens of species in attendance. Vex Prime, now serving as the Korthax Empire's special advisor on human affairs, watched as Ambassador Torres and Emperor Vex Ultimate signed the historic document. Commander, Ambassador Torres approached him after the ceremony, I wanted to thank you personally. Thank me? Vex Prime's mandibles clicked in confusion. Ambassador, I led an invasion fleet against your world. And then you chose to learn from the experience rather than repeat it. Your reports to the Emperor were honest and accurate, even though they reflected poorly on your own judgment. That took courage. Vex Prime was quiet for a moment. Ambassador, may I ask you something that's been troubling me? Certainly. That day when you destroyed my fleet, if I had accepted your initial offer to negotiate, would things have been different? Ambassador Torres nodded. Very different. We had prepared several negotiation options, depending on your response. Trade agreements, non-aggression pacts, even limited territorial access for peaceful Korthax vessels. But I chose arrogance instead. You chose to act on incomplete information and cultural assumptions. It's a common mistake. The important thing is that you learned from it. Vex Prime looked out at the stars through the station's massive viewport. Ambassador, what happens now? Where does this lead? Hopefully, she said with a genuine smile that held no trace of the terrifying confidence from their first encounter, It leads to a galaxy where species can resolve their differences without anyone having to demonstrate just how effective their weapons systems really are. As the diplomatic delegations departed, Vex Prime reflected on the extraordinary turn his life had taken. 6 months ago, he'd been the proud commander of the greatest armada in Korthak's history, preparing to crush a primitive world beneath his fleet's overwhelming might. Now he was a diplomat, working to ensure that no other species would make the same mistake he had. The irony wasn't lost on him that the species he'd tried to conquer had given him a new purpose, a chance to build rather than destroy. Perhaps that was the most human thing of all. Even in victory, they looked for ways to turn enemies into allies, conflict into cooperation. They were predators when threatened, but builders when given the chance. And the galaxy, Vex Prime realized, was about to become a much more interesting place. As he watched the Earthship depart, its sleek form disappearing into hyperspace, he couldn't help but wonder what other surprises humanity had in store for the universe. Given their track record, he suspected it would be both extraordinary and completely unexpected. After all, who would have thought that the most advanced civilization in the galaxy would disguise itself as primitive fuel burners just to be left alone? The humans, apparently. And somehow that made perfect sense.